I'm going to ask all my guests this question.
Yep.
You're number one. So it's basically, what would your one piece, we've covered a lot of it, but what would your one piece of advice be for the younger generation? If there's kids in school or university who are listening to this, they're interested in learning about finance, property, interested in how to be financially smart instead of being a dumbass and blowing it in your 20s, what is your one piece of advice for them?
One piece of advice would be maybe not to be impressionable. It's really hard to tell to someone at a young age who probably is very impressionable.
As in by, influenced by their parents or people around them or the media.
Yeah, because everyone's coming at you,
yeah,
right? So your parents are telling you one thing, like do this, fit in the box, for example, follow the pathway. Then you look at people that are rich and kind of made and go, well, I want what they have. So I think it's a combination of like the no judgments, but also not being impressionable.
Yeah.
Like, be true to who you are. Is where I really go with that to people. If your parents told you were stubborn, that just means you take no for an answer. If you're told that you're selfish, it means that you're going to be a great salesperson because you're like you know what you need to do. So I think there's kind of ways to say, like, whatever tag you've got, whatever you've got, don't let that define you.
Yeah.
That's one part. Don't be impressionable or led down by what other people are trying to sell you, and no judgments as well, because I think everyone's on their own journey, on their own pathway to figure out what they want to do in life. No one's more right or wrong than you, and that's where I always say, just go back to what you want to do. And it's really hard when you're young, but as long as you kind of keep that at the center of what you're doing, I think that's your true north.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why you'll hear so many messages that come at you,
especially with social media nowadays.
Right. There's so many messages, and everyone's selling, and everyone's spruiking, and everyone's showing off. That's all right. Don't hate it. Don't absorb it. All right. I'm just on my own journey, and I think that comes when we're comfortable in our own skin, which is really, again, I empathize for young people. It's really hard to say that, but as long as you can keep coming back to that, that to me is when you'll do well, because you're running your own race and you're not competing with anyone else, mate.
Yeah.
Advice is the dirtiest word in the English language for me at the moment. So I wouldn't presume to give any advice. I wouldn't. I'd ask a question.
Okay.
And I'd say, what do you want? And what are you prepared to do about it? Because off the back of that question, it is the most dangerous question in the whole world, but it is the most powerful and life-giving. And every time someone gives themselves permission to hold the space around what they truly desire, it draws them into a bigger space.
Yeah.
It gives them energy and desire and passion to deal with whatever hindrances get in the way. Every time you lose sight of what you want, you end up settling and surviving, and you dehumanize yourself. So that would be the thing I'd say. The more time you can delve into that question, the more permission you can give yourself to be honest about what it is that you really want for your own life, the more beautiful stories you'll end up writing for yourself.
And it's not an easy question. You shouldn't be listening to this going,
it is the hardest question in the world. Honestly, I think less than 5% of the world's population are good at asking and answering this question. The rest of the 95% end up hiding from that question, and then they just help the 5% get what they want.
Yeah.
Bitching and moaning the whole time, but at least they're safe because they can't fail and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's hard being part of the 5%, but that's where the life is as well.
So guys, be a part of the 5%, that sounds of it. What do you want? And
what are you prepared to do about it?
Yeah. Jamie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks.
Well, one piece of advice would be not to pursue happiness. And what I mean by that is I think the Western view of happiness is wrong, and it's all about me and how can I feel great and what do I need to feel great.
Yeah.
What I would advise people to do, if I had my time again, I would stress trying to be useful, trying to be helpful, and to really have a spirit of care. And that's self-care, and it's also caring for others. And I think if you're in that good place, if you're good with yourself, if you stay in the green zone, then you're in a position where you can grow, where you can evolve. So I finish my, keynotes and my presentations by encouraging people to be caring, be helpful, which is about being useful, and going for the growth zone. So that's the advice I'd give my younger self.
Don't pursue happiness.
Don't pursue
Sounds
happiness.
very counteractive as opposed to most people who would say pursue happiness.
That's my recommendation. Pursue purpose and usefulness.
Awesome. Graham, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, Byron.
Branding, anything we've just talked about, what would it be? Difficult question, I know.
Oh my goodness. Okay, if it was one thing, this encapsulates a lot.
Yeah.
I would say make every big decision. So where you're going to live, what you're going to do for a job, who you're going to live with, partner with, marry, break up with, all of those big decisions and all the small ones based on the person you want to become, not the person you are at the time of the decision. So decisions aren't hard to make. Decisions, when you've got two or more, just look towards the future of the person you want to become and the path that will take you there, not the person you are now. I think that was, and don't live in your comfort zone. Don't live in your panic zone, but live in your learning zone for life. That's what I do.
Awesome.
I still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up. making it up as I go, but I know my strengths and I know I'm in the business of storytelling and connection. And I just keep using and growing my skill and making sure there's a purpose behind every piece of business that I'm involved in.
One piece of advice.
Yeah. It's a tricky question.
Yeah, I would say that there's two ways to go about life. And for many people listening, like you have an incredible mind and you can do so much with your mind. And the one way to go about life is to look at your mind and leverage it with what you want to build and get super strategic and do all the right things and build this glamorous, impactful, great life. And many people go and do that, and that's amazing and good for them. And the second way to live, kind of like what I was talking about on my Instagram post, is, you know, as the third level of life, is to live with the heart more and to take the time to slow down and work out what you really want to do with your life. Take the time to expose yourself to new experiences and be open-minded.
Take a gap year.
Travel,
meet people.
Yeah.
And through that, you're gonna discover who you are.
Yeah. And have the courage to live a life where you listen to your gut sense and your heart, and then your mind amplifies and builds out whatever's in here, rather than just living your life from the mind.
Love it, man. And take risks as well.
Dude,
that's something we were talking about
a
while ago, was take risks. You're young.
Literally.
If you take a risk right now, if you ruin, if you take a huge risk, you lose a bit of money.
Right.
You're still at home, or you're still living at home. You've still got food coming in. You don't have kids to look after. You don't have a wife, or you don't have responsibilities. It's like, just take a risk now.
I get fired up about this. Like, there's this quote, which is, if you don't take too many risks while you're young, you get accustomed to the barnacles of the good life, and then from there it's like you'll never break out of it. I know a bunch of people that are living like, oh cool, I'm just gonna do what I'm supposed to do in my 20s, and then in my 30s I'll go and do what I really want to do with my life. That's
the problem. But when you're in 30s, suddenly you've got a wife, you're starting to have a kid, you've got a mortgage, you've got stuff to do. It's like suddenly you've hit your 30s and you're going, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do it because I'm trapped.
Yeah.
It's like, so do it now.
My advice is to really look within and to really begin to get to know yourself. You know, I feel like as we grow up, it's all about everything else. It's about learning, doing, and finding your place. But we really need to get to know ourselves at a younger age. And most people don't get to really understand themselves until they're kind of in their late 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
But I think you have a really good opportunity just to start observing yourself. Like, what is your thought process? How is your body functioning? And maybe even going to see somebody that can actually help you to understand this stuff. And there's so much information online that you can dive into this thing, but knowing and understanding your body is one of the most precious gifts that you can give yourself.
Is that in life, you just need the best people around you. Like, you have to cut people out of your life that don't add value, that don't lift you up, that don't love you, that don't celebrate your successes as if they were their own.
That's our whole 5. Audit the 5 closest people around you.
Yeah, the direct 5 people around you are a reflection of you, and
they say you'll normally be earning around about the same money.
Interesting.
Just statistically speaking.
Yeah. That's, you are. What do they say? You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I just think you've got to really think about that. And I read the book Minimalism last year by the Minimalists, which I loved, and it was just before I got diagnosed. But they have this idea, this theory that in your life, think about all the people in your life. You have and then break it up into your primary, your secondary, and then it's periphery. It's everyone else. And they're like, so your primary is, your partner, your immediate family, and your closest friends. And it's like you put all your love and your energy into those people. And if there's any energy left over, it can go into the secondary people. And if then there's anything left over, then it can go into the periphery. But most people spend, I think, a lot of their time in the periphery, and then the people closest to them don't get the best of them or their best.
Especially because the periphery has never been so accessible through social media.
Exactly.
Like all these people liking your photo. You only care about 5 people who are liking your photo, really.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
So
but
true.
you want to get the 50 or, 200 other people who are the peripherals.
Yeah.
4 words, bro. Inspire before you expire. Realization that one day we will all die. When I was 31, I got blindsided by cancer. I thought I still had literally 70 years ahead of me. And in that moment, my greatest gift that I now realize that is my time, that it was almost cut short.
Yeah.
And so every day I live my life, even as a young person, knowing that one day I might die. And so can I use the time that I've got to leave a legacy and live a legacy that I'm really proud of. So let's not forget that this gift that we have to inspire before we expire, because one day we might not have that time.
For me, I'm like, pay yourself first. You're going out to work every day, or you will be at some point. Before you pay Mr. Netflix and Mr. Vodafone and Mr. Uber and Ms. I don't know, Iconic. Pay yourself, because you're the one that earned the money, and what that means is that you're putting money away to take care of you in the future, because what you want to get to is the point where your money is working so hard that you don't have to.
Like whether it is like I love travel and I do all these things, but it's because I have money and I have savings and I've been able to do these things. So make sure you're engaging with it, and the younger you are, oh my God, the better. So, you can keep your head in the sand till you're 20 or 30, but money is something you will use every single day. It will determine where you work, what you wear, where you eat. So you want to engage with it right now and get on top of it.
This piece of advice would be, don't feel pressure to choose what you want to do too quickly. I've seen it so much with my boys over the last couple of years. There's so much pressure for them to go to university and have a career and be a lawyer or be a doctor, and it's not always about that. I think that it's better to take your time, take a gap year, work for a while, work out what you love and what you really, really want to do. It costs a lot of money to go to university.
Yeah.
So don't...
And time.
Exactly. So don't rush into it, spending your time and money on something you may never use. So take the time to find yourself. And also the other thing I'd say is your ATAR's not the be all and end all, guys. People will forget about it 3 weeks after you get your results. And you've got lots of life to live. And, if you want something badly enough later on, you will work out ways of actually getting that degree or getting that job. You don't have to rush into it too quickly.
Yeah. It's funny, it's almost the same answer almost every get to within a range.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's just something that everyone's struggling with, and it's so obvious. This is why I started the podcast, because I 100% agree. Take a gap year is a great idea. Unless you're really sure what you want to do. Yeah. So many people go into a degree, they'll be 2 or 3 years in, and they're like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this, but I've already committed 2 or 3 years, so I've got to stick with it. And now you're 10, 20 years in, and you're like, oh my God.
Exactly.
And it can just be a dangerous kind of loop to get caught in.
It is. And look, you know what? I did that loop. I studied as a lawyer, and then I got my law degree, and I thought, I may as well get my articles because I've got my degree. So then I got my articles, and then you get offered a job, and then 5 years later you're working in something you hate.
Yeah.
I didn't find my passion, and I didn't start writing and talking about time until I was 40.
Yeah, and that's quite normal, I find.
Yeah.
From people I've interviewed and people I talk to, it's like kids think they need to have it at 18, 19, 20, when most people aren't finding it until they're like, 30, 40, 50 even.
Exactly. So, cut yourself some slack. Give yourself a break. On the whole, the kids I've seen, you work hard. You've dedicated your time. You're good kids. Go and enjoy yourself a bit and find your passion. It'll come.